What is going on, guys? Welcome in to another edition of Huskers Live. And boy, do we have a packed show tonight. Ton of staff changes. We're going to go through them all, including some speculation about a couple of other positions and a last minute notations on a new recruiting guy we got. So we're going to we're going to give y'all an update on everything with the latest and greatest in Husker football and the staff overhaul as we know it, and kind of give you our thoughts on everything. So first things first, if you're new here, go ahead and drop a like, subscribe. I never asked for this stuff because I suck at it. So I'm going to try to remember now from this point forward. Actually, this will probably be the last time I ask. Go ahead and drop a like on the stream. Appreciate it. Really helps us out. What's going on? Go Little Red. What's up, Bone Leg Cornfed? Appreciate you hopping in here. Mike, what's going on, Mike? Mike, appreciate you hopping in here. Ron T can't wait for the show. He must know we got a big news day. Throw the bones. Like the video. Yeah, see, Ron T's got our back. Look at him stepping up here. Go Big Red. Great day, fellas. What's going on, Rashawn? Appreciate you hopping in here, my friend. All right, Brian. Well, I guess we should go ahead and get started with let's go ahead and get started with the biggest news. Nebraska has hired a new defensive coordinator, Rob Ulrich. Saying that right? Ulrich? I don't want to say Ulrich.
It's German, so the correct pronunciation is Ulrich. But I think the American pronunciation is Ulrich.
And I said neither of those. So
I had to Google it and listen to the audio before I made my video on it.
I'm from Texas, so pronunciations are not my strong suit, but I'll figure it out eventually. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about that. So first things first, Nebraska's defense getting a little bit of a transition. Well, Rob's one of those guys when he was promoted at San Diego State was I believe it was the edge rushers before he was promoted defensive coordinator. They ran a 3-3-5, kind of transitioned over into a 4-2-5, and he actually beat out Chris Ash for that job, who was the old Rutgers head coach and Ohio State defensive coordinator. So that should show you a little bit of kind of what he was up against when he was getting hired in that defensive coordinator role. And then, but he does have a track record of being able to turn defenses around and, they play with this fastness to them. I found one breakdown, and it was just talking about the way that he coaches, and players described him as his energy as jacked, brings an energy electricity to the facility. And then he says he wants his defenses to play simple, but extremely fast. And a lot of the stuff that we've talked about before when it comes to defense is if you make things simple, then your defenses can play faster. They can play without kind of a less of a fear of failure because they're just going out there and they're less reliant on schemes and more reliant on just getting to the ball, putting a head to the ball. But it's obvious he teaches the fundamentals the right way because his defenses are very good with, their schemes, their gap fits and stuff like that. And I can dive a little bit more into schemes in a little bit, but let me get your overarching thoughts on this hire.
Yeah. So for those who haven't seen, I did do a video kind of breaking down more of the statistical stuff with his defense. I did that pretty much within an hour or two of it the news being broken. There was a few names that were like kind of on our hot board. He was a little ways down, and it wasn't because of not being a good hire. It's just the lack of experience. And that's my biggest concern. Yeah. I pointed that out in the video. My biggest concern is, and it's part of it's lack of Power 4 experience, but more so just experience in general.
Yes.
And that's because he's been a DC at a D2 school, a DC at Idaho, and then a DC for one season at San Diego State. Yep. Now, to counter that concern was one thing I really liked looking through his career. You see consistent year-over-year improvements in multiple defensive statistical categories.
Quick turnarounds.
Yes. And the best part, Nebraska's lockdown corner, Andrew Marshall, was recruited by him to Idaho. And he was a damn good corner, I thought. So he identified Andrew, brought him into Idaho, turned him into a fairly good Big Ten corner. And the other part I liked about it is that he's young, which is also, like I said in my video, it's a pro and a con. The reason why it is a pro is I described him as like a light version of Mike Eckler. Very high energy, rah type coach. There was reports from San Diego State early on when he first showed up about being a high energy guy in the locker room, in the facilities, just getting dudes amped up. He is and I think that's important because to 21 or 22-year-olds typically respond better to that type of coaching. Some don't, and it doesn't work for everybody. But generally speaking, that's the type of coaching that works really well in college and not in the NFL, which is ironically why Coach Rhule wasn't a great head coach in the NFL, because that's also his kind of style, but a little bit more toned down. But overall, I think it's a good hire. I described it as high risk, high reward. And I think that's because you have a really low floor potentially, but a very high ceiling. Because if he can continue doing what he's done at San Diego State, the sky's the limit with what we can do here.
Yeah, I think one of the things that he fits well is like you talked about, the energy, because one of the old San Diego State assistants, it was the one that said he just kind of brings this electricity, energy, and you can hear him throughout the building, kind of interacting with the players and people in the facility. And defenses really thrive off of the energy of those coaches. You know, defensive players like to play with a guy who gets them motivated, fired up to go out there and play fast and play violent. That's one of the strengths of his defense. Well, another thing about it too is looking at some of the stuff about him, he has a big variety of different. When he went into San Diego State, he kind of mixed up a lot of what they were doing in terms of the defensive backfield, schematically, talking about changing up to using a lot more of a mix of man, zone, and quarters, just making sure he constantly kept everything changing to make them harder to scheme up against. And then when he went in there, he talked about just kind of re-teaching the defense, even though he was already part of the defense. It was one of those things where it was like they were still lacking in some of the fundamental areas. So his goal when he was promoted to defensive coordinator was to go in there and reteach kind of the defense a lot of those things that they were missing. So, not only that, but we see him able to kind of connect the dots and be able to improve a defensive he was already a part of, but going there and step up, when he was promoted and being able to just kind of retool a lot of things. And instead of kind of leaning towards like, hey, this is our strength, we're just going to lean into our strength, he was kind of able to kind of balance everything out and make it kind of more of a complete defense. And another part of it where you're talking about, him not being at high level schools, when they were talking to him about, being whenever he's at San Diego State, was like, he mentioned that like the ready-made guys weren't typically available to them from the high school ranks. And so like he kind of alluded to what he looks for in his defensive guys is guys who are impactful and violent on contact. And so again, that just kind of goes a little bit more to the philosophy of just, we want these guys playing fast and playing hard. And if you, like we talked about towards the end of the season, how it just seemed like this defense's identity, it didn't really have much. Again, the USC game, the defense had this, they came out, it seemed like firing on all cylinders, press man and all that. And then USC was kind of able to run us out of that. And then it's like, at moments we saw that identity peak back up. But then it was during that game, but it was gone for the remainder of the season. It was like, we need somebody who's going to be able to bring that aggressiveness and that electric energy, to the unit as a whole. And it's really interesting, like being a Nebraska fan and a Texans fan, because I see the way Houston's defense goes out there and flies around and plays like loose, fast, and free. And they got a defensive minded guy who gets them amped up to play. And you can see, and like, that's the difference. Like when they talk about D'Amico being their coach, is like, he just gets them fired up and ready and amped up and lets them play free and loose. And I feel like that's what he's going to be able to do while still teaching them a lot of the things that kind of held them back this year. I think as a whole, I think it'll be a good little shift schematically where it won't change too much. And I think he'll be able to implement a lot to be able to fit the players that we have. That's what he's done a good job of, is like just finding ways to take the players that he has. And that's the good part about looking at quick turnarounds, is if you see a guy who's taken players and flipped the defense around, where he's kind of identified the talent he has and played to those areas. It's like, okay, it's not like oh, I feel like I have a strong defensive backfield. I'm just going to come in and lean on that. Now it's like, how can we find out a way to balance it out and make this front good as well?
I'm so glad you mentioned that because he actually used to run a variation of the 3-3-5.
Mm.
And so I think his defense still has elements of that.
Yeah.
But what I like about it, you mentioned adapting your defense. That's exactly what he did at San Diego State when he took over as the defensive coordinator. I have the personnel for a 4-2-5, or even if it was a 4-3, but he knew he didn't have the personnel for a 3-3-5. So he switched his defense to a 4-2-5. But you will see a lot, 2 down linemen and 2 stand-up edge rushers. So you'll see like a Williams Nawarni on the edge standing up now without a hand in the dirt. Not all the time, but it allows for a lot of versatility within his scheme. That was one thing when I was watching some of the games on YouTube was just you'll see a defensive series. You're like, that's 4 down linemen, technically speaking, but it's only 2 guys' hands in the dirt. And you'll see a defensive end drop back in coverage. That was one thing I liked about his defense. But then throughout doing my research, I found a list of his defensive philosophies that he had talked about. And I mean, it's a pretty lengthy list, but there's 3 things on there that I really liked. And you've already hinted at them, but now that we know it's also his own words too, his defensive philosophy, high energy, blue collar approach, prioritizing speed and physical aggression over a complex trickery type scheme, assignment and alignment, playing fast mentality, simplifying your assignments so that your defenders can read and react as opposed to overthinking, which I think that happened a lot under Coach Butler, especially on that second level where guys they weren't getting lined up right. Mm-hmm. And then the third one that I really liked was violent at the point of attack and violent at the line of scrimmage, 2 areas where Nebraska obviously struggled a ton under Butler.
Yeah, and it kind of fits the guys at Weird Haven Place, their mentality as well, more of aggressive style coach, especially Addison Williams with our defensive backs. And I'm super happy that we were able to keep him. A lot of talk about what happened with Vince and whether it was because he could bring his own coaches or not. I just want to say I'm very happy we kept Addison Williams on this staff. I will say that. It's not one of those things where it's just easy to sacrifice a good coach like that to bring in another coach, especially if you feel like you got a guy who kind of fits what you like. And whatever happened with there, I don't know if you know more about what happened with Vince. There's a lot of speculation when it comes to that. But
I can speak a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the report from Sipple on Friday night was Vince was in town, obviously.
Yep.
I firmly believe he did want to bring his secondary coach. I don't think it was an end-all be-all for him because I pay attention to the timing of announcements.
Right.
So like Toledo head coach announced going to UConn. Before that, hours before that, announced Vince Cares is in Lincoln. And then the next morning, officially his head coach goes to UConn. He officially goes to Syracuse. And then hours later, his DB coach accepts the defensive coordinator job at Iowa State. So I don't think it was an end-all be-all for him that he had to bring him with. I think what it was Rhule, and I can't say this for fact, but I think it was Rhule saying, hey, I'm taking my time a little bit here. I want to interview other candidates. I'm not going to have an answer for you in the time frame that you're wanting to make a decision. Because nowadays with the portal and bowl practices and all these things, like these decisions do have to be made relatively quickly.
Yeah.
And Rhule was okay with, hey, it may take me a week or 2, and that's fine. And I just don't think Cares wanted to wait. And that's understandable from his perspective as well. But I will also add, I said this in my video covering our new defensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. There are certain coaches that do not want the limelight. And what I mean by that is Nebraska is a very unique situation where you have people, tons of podcasts like us, like Jen Red that's in our comments right now. And there's tons of people like us covering the program on YouTube, plus professionally. Like that's their full-time job. You have 3 recruiting outlets covering Nebraska. You have the Omaha World Herald. You have 50, 60 people for a press conference today for nothing other than announcing some changes in bowl prep.
Yep. That
is not normal. And so there's some coaches that don't want that limelight or they're just not comfortable in it. Yep. That certainly could be part of it because Syracuse is in the middle of nowhere. And it's in a terrible state with a terrible climate for November to March.
Yeah, it's a horrible place to. I will say a horrible place.
120 inches of snow.
Yeah, it's a horrible place to live. Nobody wants to be out there in Syracuse. Okay,
and they play in a freaking dome that they share with the basketball team.
That dome is the most hideous thing, bro. I can't imagine having to play football in a dome.
Yeah. So there's most of what I'm saying is speculative, but I think it's educated speculation a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of it is speculation. I think there's a lot of different rumors and stories around there. Some saying, oh, he didn't land his guy, but whatever. I feel like it was kind of, again, it's one of those things when you have him in town, it's not like he was just like, nope, I'm good. There was probably something on both ends that kept that from happening, which means it was probably for the best, for both sides of the equation. Again, we talk about this with players and coaches alike now in the transfer portal, but it's an interview still nonetheless, and both sides have to kind of agree on this. It's not like we're just bringing guys in to just throw a contract in their face and just say, yeah, here you go. Just take it or leave it,
Yeah. And there was mixed reporting too. Someone sent me a screenshot of one of the national guys at 247, Alan True, I think is how you say his last name. I guess he had posted on either like their national board or on like the Nebraska board that his contacts in Toledo were saying it's a done deal for him to Nebraska. And that was like 30 minutes before the announcement to Syracuse.
Yep.
Which tells you how quick things can change.
100%, especially now, modern college football. Rhule alluded to it today, where you just got to make decisions quick, not only for the best interests of the players and the team, but the coaches that are moving on and the coaches that you're bringing in, those type of things. Because the coaching carousel constantly revolves. One move affects the next person, and so you got to keep all that in mind. All right, anything else?
I was going to say, speaking of moving quickly, how about that hire of Jeb Wade?
Yes, we're going to
dive. That had to have been 30 minutes.
Man, so first off, let's start with Raiola getting fired. And, we had talked a little bit about it was year 4 under Donovan. And, again, just hadn't seen the leap that we needed to take this year. And, we gave it time. There was injuries, over a couple of the seasons. There were him not having his guys in there, or him having some young offensive linemen and develop him maybe not hitting on a couple of guys in the portal. So we're like, let's give it another round and see. And then just this year it just wasn't there. And we talked about potentially, just with the offensive line being as tough of a unit as it is to be able to go out and there not being a lot of offensive line coaches available. Like, are you better off keeping him and just trying and seeing, or do you go pry a guy from somewhere else? Well, you look at Brent Key over there in Georgia Tech, and they lost their offensive coordinator to, I believe, Florida. And then so Jeb Wade, which was reported, I don't know if it was reported that he was potentially going to go with him to Florida, and then turned around and ends up in Nebraska. But overall, really good offensive line hire, but I'll let you go ahead and touch on that one to start.
Yeah, when I think back to Raiola, Coach Raiola, he had a really good room in terms of recruiting. All right, you had Turner Corcoran, who was a top 150 recruit, 4-star. You had Bryce Benhart, another top 150 recruit, 4-star. Gunnar Katula, 4-star. Rocco Spindler, I believe, was a 5-star in high school, which I'm not going to give him credit for developing Rocco. Henry Letofsky was a borderline 4-star on most services. I think he was a 4-star on one service. Elijah Pritchett was also a 5-star who Coach Raiola refused to start for 4 games this year instead of letting him work through issues. There was a lot of talent on that offensive line. And I look over his time at Nebraska. Bryce Benhart, okay player, not what we thought. Turner Corcoran, okay player, definitely not what we thought. Henry Letofsky, same thing. Oh, Teddy Prohaska, given his injuries, still borderline 5-star offensive tackle. Was not a lot of development. His best offensive lineman came by way of the transfer portal in his final season as the offensive line coach. And there was a common discussion, I believe in our post-game show, actually, where people were pointing to the success the offensive line had towards the tail end of the year. And while, yes, we will give credit, They ran the ball very well. They did not give up a bunch of sacks. You have to look at his tenure in its totality.
Yeah.
And it's been very bad for the bulk of his tenure at Nebraska. In fact, Minnesota they gave up 9 sacks. Some of those by offensive line issues, some of those by quarterback issues. Jeb Wade's offensive line gave up 9 sacks last year for the entirety of the season. We gave up 7 sacks versus Michigan. Jeb Wade's offensive line in 2024 gave up 9 sacks in its totality for the whole year.
Yep.
So in 2 games, we almost gave up more sacks than Jeb Wade's offensive line at Georgia Tech in 2 years. And then people will say, well, Georgia Tech runs the ball a lot. Yes, they do. But they actually threw it more times than Nebraska did. They had more passing attempts and only gave up 9 sacks. I think this is a home run hire from a development standpoint. I believe the number was 21 all-conference players throughout his coaching career. He had the first All-American since 2016 at Georgia Tech. That was a non-specialist player. He sent 5 players to the NFL. Georgia Tech's offense ranked 12th nationally in total offense. Their rushing offense averaged 203 yards per game, which was 19th nationally, and 9 sacks, like I had mentioned. To me, this is exactly what you're looking for from an offensive line coach. He has a proven identity, a proven track record of development, elite recruiting. He's got a 5-star that might enter the portal, and Nebraska could bring him with. And honestly, you beat him over in 2 SEC schools. You mentioned Florida. South Carolina also threw a lot of money his way. Nebraska is going to pay him $750,000 per year, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the highest or the most for any positional coach in Nebraska football history. $750K per year, which is phenomenal. I mean, you want to go play with the big boys, you got to go pay an offensive line coach that much money. That's how much it cost. That's how much SC, or I almost said SC, South Carolina, they were probably in that same ballpark.
Yeah.
In terms of
yeah, and just when I was kind of looking up some stuff on him, I found a video on Facebook of kind of him teaching some of his philosophies and just teaching the Crowler concept and drill. And one of the things that you notice is he's just very much about physicality, and he talks about, he was talking to one of the in this meeting, in this little coaching video that I watched, and he's like, they ask if I'm a flip or an arm guy, and he's like, I'm just hit him, like you from here to here, just hit him, drive him. And so and I feel like this offensive line at times hasn't had an identity to speak of, whether it's trying to be too cute with the footwork or just getting driven back at the point of attack. Like, he's very much about, like, we're going to get off the ball, we're going to drive, and we're going to hit somebody hard, and we're going to use leverage, and we're going to drive them off the ball. And you see that with his offensive lines at Georgia Tech. That's Brent Key is an offensive line guy, and I believe Brent Key brought him on at Georgia Tech. So that should tell you, like, all you need to know about him, because Brent Key is very much O-line. And so that shows you right there, like, he's got the DNA that you need in an O-line coach. And he's taken, again, really bad offensive lines and turned them around into really good offensive lines. And again, that's what we need right now. We need somebody who's had concepts of quick turnarounds, because we're already going into year 4 of Matt Rhule. Like you talked about, they didn't allow many sacks. They had a top running attack year after year after year when he was there. And it's just, he just teaches the basics and effort. And, like, that's what Nebraska needs to do, is they need to stop being so cute and trying to, be creative with the footwork and all this, and just get back to driving people backwards off the ball. And we talk about that all the time. It's like, what made old Nebraska good is just, they were just out physical. They were bigger, stronger, and more physical than everybody. And sometimes that's all you need is an identity to be able to come in here and just be able to drive people off the ball. And that's what he brings. They had the 12th ranked offense. I have some stats here. 12th ranked offense in the country in average yards per game, 19th nationally in rushing offense at 203 yards per game, and 28th in scoring offense at 33.1 points per game. And when you can score that much as a running offense, that says something about your team. was able to run the ball with the quarterbacks, the running backs. It's just one of those things you talked about it. 21 all-conference players, 5 offensive linemen going to the NFL. He just kind of has the only thing that worries me is he's just moved around a lot. And that doesn't mean he will, it's a little different when you're in Nebraska and they can, they're throwing $750,000 in your face, but he's coached at a bunch of different places, but I feel like Nebraska can be a place where he lands and it kind of sticks around. But just overall brings that identity that I think Nebraska's really been missing on this offensive front. And go ahead.
He's elevating. That's the good thing is he's moving around, but he's typically elevating. I mean, at Appalachian State.
Exactly. He's moving. He's climbing the ranks. Exactly.
Yeah. And that offensive line at Appalachian State won the midseason award for the, what's it called? The Joe Moore Award for the best offensive line.
Yep.
They won the midseason award and they were not finalists, but they were in that final, like maybe 10 to 15 grouping back in 2022. And then his offensive line, I believe last year, and I know for sure this year, was almost a finalist. They were in that final grouping before they announced like the top 2 or 3 schools, which they did just announce that today. And Georgia Tech wasn't on there. Actually, 2 Big Ten teams were on there, but that just shows talent development. Consistent, for 3 years straight, he's produced really good offensive lines. Appalachian State is by no means a powerhouse, and he was able to get that offensive line to be one of the best groups by the midseason. Is certainly impressive. And then from like a recruiting standpoint, I don't remember which class. I want to say it was 2023 or 2024. I can pull up Georgia Tech's class real quick. Actually, they signed that 5-star offensive tackle. They pulled him away from Georgia,
and he was one of the main reasons. He was one of the main reasons why he went over. Yep.
And that was not the only big victory in that recruiting class. In fact, that recruiting class, I believe he'd signed 3 other highly regarded offensive line. I believe one of them was a borderline 5-star, then 2 really high 4-stars. Yeah, here's Josh Petty. That's his name. 29th overall player in the country, and 98 out of 100 on the composite score per 247. Peyton Joseph, 4-star offensive guard. He's the one that has already entered the portal. I don't anticipate him coming, just to get that out of the way right now. He was kicked off the team at Georgia Tech, so I would not anticipate anything there, but not to dive too much into that stuff.
Right. Yeah. And another thing too that I think is very important to note is like it's one thing to develop players, but like when watching his offensive lines, like they just move as a unit. And I think one of the things that maybe that we struggled with was getting our line to just play as a unit. Our combo block struggled.
We just pick up a stunt to save our lives.
Our timing was off. It just seemed like everything was just discombobulated. Not only were we getting blown off the ball, but it just like the unit and its just kind of cohesion was nowhere near where it should be. It looked like year after year, it kind of looked like you were patchworking an offensive line together, and it should have been able to build, some cohesion across the board with, people's feet moving in unison, guys not having to feel like, and I feel like a lot of times guys feeling like they have to look out for the guy to the right and the left and maybe missing their own assignments, not being able to duo and get to the second level and be able to, take out guys at the second and third level and stuff like that. And that's where I feel like his offensive lines really thrive, is just being able to be a cohesive unit. And that way they can just worry about winning their one-on-ones, worry about the guy in front of them, and then getting to the next guy, and not have to worry about the guy to the right or the left. Because as soon as you kind of hesitate a little bit and you're thinking about the guy missing his block to the right or the left, like you're going to be late getting off the ball, because them defensive linemen have no other job most of the time but to get to the quarterback. They're just trying to drive you backwards. And so I think what the philosophy that he preaches is going to be really just getting Nebraska back to just driving people backwards. And again, you see that in the Georgia Tech film, and just kind of, but the biggest thing I think is just the cohesiveness that this line can put together. And I think that can make a quick turnaround. If you just get a line working together, more so than anything, like it may not be one of those things where you need, 2 years of development for each of these guys that are bringing your own guy. If you just get them working as one, like that can make a huge difference in a year, because the talent is there. We've talked about the recruiting talent that we've had across the board and stuff like that. And then not only that, think about the guys that potentially he can go get in the portal and stuff like that. But I just think like similarly to coming around and we talked about changing the defensive, not changing, having to change a bunch of the players and the personnel, just kind of coaching their strengths. Like I feel like this is another one of those opportunities where if we just get the line just playing as a unit, cohesive unit, then it'll go a long way.
I think Nebraska, this hire, well, let me backtrack a little bit. I think the last couple games of the year, Nebraska found their identity on offense. Run the ball 25, 30 times a game, if not more. Dominate the line of scrimmage. Then they brought in an offensive line coach who that's his entire career is dominating in the run game. And a spread power run system or run scheme at Georgia Tech. I think, and also I look at Nebraska's recruiting. Dylan Raiola is the only pocket passer they've recruited under Coach Rhule. Jeff Sims, as much as he sucked, mobile quarterback, couldn't really throw it. But Trey Taylor is a mobile quarterback, primarily a thrower, but very mobile, underrated runner. He had 12 rushing touchdowns and 800 yards rushing as a junior this past season. Their 2028 quarterback, I just drew a blank on his name because I did not have any of this in my notes, but he very much is their top guy right now. Trains at the same facility or with the same coach that TJ Lateef trains with out in California. He's from Rancho something, whatever. Very mobile. Kumakumba or whatever.
Cucamonga. Rancho Cucamonga. That's what it's called.
Yeah. So then you have him and TJ as well. I kind of ran over TJ there, but very mobile, can throw. Every quarterback they've recruited is the polar opposite of what your current quarterback is, which leads me to my point. Nebraska that's my projection, is they're going to shift to a power run scheme with a mobile quarterback. Coach Rhule even alluded it in today in his press conference. He's looking forward to using TJ's legs in the run game. Whether Dylan's back or not, that is where they're going. And I think it's the right thing to do because the guys they've brought in are better throwers than typically like your Taylor Martinez or your Tommy Armstrongs, for example, where those guys were true runners, okay throwers. The guys they're bringing in are really good runners, but way better throwers. So there's more of that pass element where you don't feel so disheartened when you have to air it out if you're getting blown out or something like that, which hopefully doesn't happen.
Yeah, and it helps to have a guy who can come in and has worked with, teams that have mobile quarterbacks, because it's one thing to coach guys to block the guy in front of them for a pocket passer, but it's another thing to be able to kind of shift over and be able to, build a pocket for a guy who's also able to move and stuff like that. So, but again, I think that married up with Holgerson's offense can be very successful. So, overall, I really like this hire. This one to me was a home run.
Yeah, it was a name that a lot of people didn't know about either.
Negative.
My initial thought, I remember I was messaging back and forth with a couple of our subscribers. And when the news broke, we all said the same name, John Garrison.
Yep.
Which would be a beautiful hire, but I believe he re-signed at Ole Miss. And he had his time at Nebraska, and I think he's moved on. Like, I don't think even in years from now when maybe there's coaching changes or whatever, there's no chance of him coming back. I think he's past his time in Nebraska, which is fine.
Yeah,
but he's a guy I would love to.
Now my question becomes. Oh, came back out. Come back in.
I was about to just do that because I saw we were at the 30-minute mark.
Yeah, buddy. All right, you all know what happens when that echo comes in. We got to have him pop out and back in because StreamYard, at least they're consistent with their timing on it. So, all right. So now the question comes up. Dylan Raiola. Again, we kind of already alluded to this, that we haven't bought into the hype of him leaving. I feel like, again, we're kind of getting into that kind of hairy situation that we were in last offseason. You're frozen, I think. There you are. Okay, you're back. Yeah. Where we're getting a lot of speculation and stuff like that. I don't think this impacts that decision, first off. But I'm seeing a lot of people saying like, "Oh yeah, firing his uncle," not because like I don't think that really plays too much of a factor in what he thinks is the best for his career. But I ask you this: has your mind stayed the same on that? Because we're both pretty consistent, like we think Dylan stays, and I'm still leaning that direction. Like I'm still leaning that direction.
I'm back and forth. I was pretty confident he was coming back, and it was just CBS blowing smoke. I did hear something that they believe their value is exceeding what Nebraska is paying him. And so, and I think it's normal, regardless of your ties to the program or not, to test the market and see
100%.
what your value is. So I don't fault them for that, although I don't like it.
I don't think his
But he
decision
makes
hinges.
3.6.
I don't think his decision hinges on his uncle being the O-line coach here or not. I will say that.
No, I don't think so at all.
I don't think it has any. I don't think it has any part in it.
I think if you look at it with a bipartisan view, is if maybe that's the right word.
That
take out the
objective
fact that
lens
he's your
kinda.
uncle. Yeah, dude, you're getting me freaking killed back here.
100%.
Yeah. But what I think is, I believe that the number I've heard is they're wanting over 4 million per year, and he's just below that, around 3.5, 3.6 right now. And I believe Nebraska is actually trying to restructure that down, based on his performance, because the O-line had issues, but a lot of those sacks are because he is playing for, I don't want to say that as fact, but he seems to be playing for stats as opposed to be playing to win. And that may be the entirely wrong way to word it, but that's what I'm rolling with. But to me, I'm not going to be mad if he leaves by any means. Nebraska will go out and they'll find a guy in the portal.
Yeah.
Sam Levitt's an option. Sorsby, maybe you could tamper and get him in for $2 or $3 million a year. I really like the quarterback from Old Dominion that entered the portal. So if Nebraska switches their offense to what we believe it's going to be and Dylan leaves, there's definitely going to be options for you in the portal to go get a guy. But if you had to ask me right now if he's staying or leaving, I still think he stays.
I think I'm slightly in stays. It wouldn't surprise me if he left, but I still am slightly in, like, I just haven't crossed over into thinking that he's gone yet. No.
Yeah.
Like I said, with these things, we never know because things change so fast. But I'm just, that's where I'm at with it. But again, I just don't think, I don't think losing his uncle as an O-line coach has any factor in that.
Yeah, I think it has nothing to do with it. Yeah. I think Dayton decommitting has nothing to do with it either. I think Nebraska had to take a real look at their quarterback room and say, you're not in our plans. You're a 2 or 3 year project, and in 2 or 3 years we'll have TJ and Trey.
Yep.
Who are both better. Yeah,
exactly. And no knock on Dayton, but it's just he wasn't, he's got the Raiola name, but he's not the 5-star quarterback that Dylan was. He's a lefty though. I like left-handed quarterbacks because I'm a lefty, so it hurts. We need a lefty on the roster. All right, let's talk about you want to talk about D-line?
I'll say we can talk about the new
coordinator. Go ahead. Let's do that first.
The new coach per se, Lonnie Teasley, coming over from South Carolina. He was their offensive line coach for a few years there. Coach Rhule didn't specify like he's going to be this exact assistant. Now, if you're asking me what my opinion is going to be a very similar role to Jamar Mosey, because their value as a recruiter is incredibly, incredibly important for the success and the longevity of everyone's career that's involved with the University of Nebraska. Jamar Mosey, that's right, Jamar Mosey. Yeah. I was about to say Isaiah, but Jamar Mosey has brought in a lot of talent. Teasley could do the same. 2026 recruiting class at South Carolina ranked 15th nationally. He signed 2 top 100 overall recruits, both interior offensive linemen. Class of 2025, he signed 3 top 300 overall recruits in the country, 1 tackle that was top 250 overall, and 2 interior linemen. 1 was top 300, 1 was top 200. His value as an offensive line recruiter is very, very good, clearly, right? I think his value as a recruiter also exceeds his value as a position coach. And I don't mean that to be negative, but quite frankly, South Carolina's offensive line was not great under his leadership. Their offense struggled, even though they had Lenore Sellers. They had Nick Harbor. They had a bunch of really good talent that just did not mesh for whatever reason. Part of it, they just fired their offensive coordinator. So there's a multitude of issues with South Carolina this year. And I think he just kind of got fired because of their offensive struggles. But he can certainly bring in a bunch of big-time recruits for you, just like Mosey.
Yeah. And kind of one of the, I think that's the biggest thing is, and now we see just Nebraska's focus, of course, this year. It should have been previous years, but really just the commitment to the line, making sure that they kind of patch this offensive line together and make it turn around quickly. So that's what we've been clamoring for a long time now. Would have been nice to see it when Emmett Johnson was here. Shout out to EJ though.
That would be nice.
So, all right, let's go ahead and talk about the other side of the ball. Let's go ahead and we'll finish up here with the defensive line. And news a few days ago was that LSU was going to land Elijah Robinson and was kind of in the driver's seat for him. Now things have changed a little bit. And
Not
it seems
so
like
fast.
Seems like that is no longer the case. And LSU fans are losing their collective minds. And so it just seems like whatever was there potentially set in place with Lane Kiffin's staff there had just kind of fallen apart late. Seemed like maybe Matt Rhule made a late push because it seemed like it was down LSU and Nebraska as the two teams. I also read somewhere that Penn State potentially was in the mix. I don't know.
That's his alma mater.
Yeah. So, but it would appear that maybe Matt Rhule, again, commitment to the trenches in this offseason. Sorry if you hear my dog whining in the background. He's being dramatic. Commitment to the trenches, but took a shot and maybe made an offer he couldn't pass up. So let's go ahead and talk about Elijah Robinson a little bit. Currently at Syracuse, was at Texas A&M for a while and has great success at both teams. But he is, you want to talk about a home run hire in terms of name, history, and just success. Like this one is it.
Yeah, Elijah Robinson just got demoted as the defensive coordinator at Syracuse. I don't think he was a great coordinator by any means, but
no.
I think they definitely wanted to keep him on staff because of his value with development and his value as a recruiter. So Nebraska's battling LSU, they're battling Penn State. I think, and there was a report that came out right before this show started, that LSU feels that they're out of it completely.
Yep.
And I think Nebraska's timing of firing Terry Braden coincides with that report that Nebraska has made a very lucrative offer to Elijah. Yes. They tried to get him as the defensive line coach and like co-DC or like recruiting coordinator in Rhule's first staff. That didn't happen, and it sucked. But he's regarded as one of the best defensive line coaches in the entire country. Sorry, I'm reading notes from my phone because I did this part at work.
No, you're fine.
Regarded as one of the best defensive line coaches and best recruiters in entirety of college football. Was a main factor for Texas A&M's #1 ranked recruiting class, the one where they spent like $30 million or whatever under Jimbo Fisher.
They had their entire line one of the seasons get drafted.
Yeah.
Entire
in 5 years at A&M, he had 8 NFL draft picks on the defensive line alone. That is insane, actually. I don't think – when's the last time Nebraska had eight defensive line drafted in a 5-year span?
Oh, God.
Probably never.
Was that ever?
Yeah.
And before that, they hadn't had a defensive lineman drafted since 2008 at A&M.
Yeah, it's insane what he was able to do. In 2022, his defensive line unit helped pave the way for the 17th ranked rush defense nationally. They were 3rd nationally in sacks at 3.5 per game. They were 9th nationally in total defense at 295 yards per game. By the way, he was the co-DC and recruiting coordinator and the D-line coach all under one umbrella at Texas A&M.
Yep.
They led the SEC in rush defense, sacks, tackles for loss, and they were 2nd in total defense. They finished inside the top 20 nationally in rush defense 5 times in his 5 years there. They finished top 15 nationally 3 times in his 5 seasons at Texas A&M. Also, still very young. He's only 40 years old, which I thought he was like closer to 50. So his career is actually
that's crazy compared to what like at the point he's at in his career at 40 is kind of crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Like our new defensive coordinator is probably 37 or 38 years old. So I did not realize he was
we're
this young.
we both refer to him as young. Yeah.
Because in the coaching world, like 40,
Like,
like
very young.
you got a ways to go.
Yeah, you got guys like Pete Carroll out here.
Yeah, so he's still like very hungry. He probably more than likely wants to get back to being a defensive coordinator.
Yes.
At some point. And then even at Syracuse, they were 10-3 last year. They were 3-9 this year. They sucked, but they were 10-3 their first year. He had 4 players in that first year earn ACC all conference honors, and then his freshman defensive tackle earned All-American honors, freshman All-American. So in 1 year, in 2 years, but in that first year at Syracuse, he made quite the impact. If I'm Coach Rhule, and I'm getting long-winded here, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
If I'm Coach Rhule, because it's clear he's going all out. Like, he recognizes the urgency that this is. That's why you went out and got Jeb Wade. That's why you went out and got your new DC. That's why you went out and got Teasley. You got 3 really good coaches, really good developers, and 2 that are damn good, proven recruiters.
Yep.
Now, if you can get Elijah, who is a combo of the both, elite development, elite track record, incredibly good recruiter. He was a 2022 Recruiter of the Year per 247. He can bring you so much talent. I would offer him D-line coach, throw a associate head coach tag on him or something like that. Throw a recruiting coordinator tag on him to validate paying him $1.2 million. I don't know what Coach Rob's salary is as a defensive coordinator. My speculation is they are still negotiating that part of it, because it would be awkward, while somewhat normal in the college football world, to make more than your boss. Like, Coach Rhule obviously makes more than Troy Danon, but a defensive line coach, say they get him and he's making $1.2 million. Like, your coordinator probably should be making, 1.4, 1.5, 1.6. Yep. And they will have the flexibility to do that, because I think Coach Eckler is actually going to slide over and help coach linebackers probably next season.
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest things is looking at is just kind of like, that those classes that A&M had in the time he was there. Remember, they were just they one of the years they had the top recruiting class in the country. I don't know if it was 2021 or 2022.
It was the 2022
number 1 recruiting class in the country that year, and they were just stacking. He was part of all of those. So, just like we talked about, maybe not the best defensive coordinator in the world, but when it comes to what you need from a D-line coach, like, he checks every box. And it was like Terry Braden was that guy that we brought in, and we're just like, he's got the NFL pedigree, but we don't know what he is as a recruiter. And the stark contrast this would be to that. Whereas, like, okay, like, there's no more time to let guys get their footing in here as a recruiter, and let's see what they got as a recruiter. Like, we need guys who can recruit guys now, like, who can go out and attack guys in the portal, get them in here and get them one play for you now. And that's obviously the identity that Matt Rhule wants to go with, guys who are going to be able to come in and just get guys, instant impact players, and guys who have a proven track record, again, of turning things around and turning things around quickly.
I don't think they're done with coaching changes. He kind of hinted that there might be some guys that move. I'll go ahead and make a prediction.
Good.
I think EJ Barthel takes that opening job at Texas.
Yep, wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, they came hard for him last year.
Yeah, they pushed. They did push for him last year, and
and they just fired their coach,
and they got money, and we are using a lot of money on a lot of these new coaching hires, and so it's one of those things that's like, maybe we may not be able to match what they're willing to pay him to bring him over, because Texas isn't having a full staff overhaul like we are, so they're not going to have to throw as much money at individual coaches,
And I'll add, people, for some reason, he just has this weird stigma, like, that he's not a good coach or he can't recruit. I mean, look what he did with Emmett.
Yeah.
I mean, Dante Dowdell, he recruited. He was good his 1 year here. He got Kawan Lacey until we got outbid by Missouri, and Kawan Lacey is the Doak Walker Award finalist and might win it. Maybe not Love will probably win it, but that's besides the point.
At the very least, great identifier of talent. But yeah, he's proven the ability to come in and work guys into being very, very solid running backs. And it was something that, like, not all of us gave him credit for early on, but he's quietly proven himself in that regard.
Yeah. And he's also got us the connections to Chicago that got us in the room with your second highest rated recruit in this 2000 26 class, Claude Mapuma.
Mm-hmm.
He's also how you got kind of in the door with Trey Taylor, who's the 5-star quarterback for class 2027. So I think he's a good recruiter. I think he's a pretty good developer as well. It's just gonna, I mean, it'll be a blow if he does take that job. But at this point, I think it's pretty obvious Rhule's going all out to put together the best staff possible.
Yes,
he'll find somebody.
Yeah, if you got a net, maybe if you got a net, take a step back at like a position coach, like a specific like running back position coach to bolster up your huge trench issues, then you got to do what you got to do. Because again, they're going to be willing to throw more money at EJ Barthel potentially than we're willing to be able to put towards him, just because we have. I mean, we're in a fight for our life for Elijah Robinson right now, and so that's also important in that factor. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, Elijah Robinson just brings like some sacks to what we need. We need to be able to finish sacks. Elijah Robinson's team, they get to the quarterback and they finish sacks. That's another thing too. Looking at his numbers through, it's one of those things where it's just like Terry Braden he didn't. If it was year one, yeah, if it was year one, maybe he would have time to build in year 2 or 3. But this is going into year 4. Matt Rhule, he just didn't have time to play around, like, because his ass is on the line at this point. So, no knock on him as a guy. He just didn't get it done quick enough.
Andy Reid will hire him back and go 6-12 next year, like we're about to this year.
Oh man, Texans. Go Texans, man. It felt good.
That was hard watch on Sunday night.
Oh, it was great, dude. I was sick as a dog, but loving every second of it still. All right, let's dive
into a lot of comments.
Yeah, we did. Let me dive into some of these here. Rashawn, can't wait to see Mekhi in the bowl game. Yes, 100%. Cannot wait. It's been a minute, but I'm tuned in tonight. Appreciate you hopping in here, man. Pulled out of going to LSU with Kiffin. I'm assuming it's talking about Elijah Robinson, but yeah, that's been the report, is that there's at least a huge hiccup in that. So let's be honest, nothing's official until they're hired.
Yeah, so, until they sign. Because Saturday he was agreed into terms without signing a contract, and here we are, 4 days later, and he is very much not going to be their coach and might be Nebraska's or Penn State's.
Yeah,
which I bet Penn State.
Even if they report that it's official, we've learned that reporting is you take it at face value. Justin Bryan, how about Nebraska now having the highest paid strength and conditioning coach in the Big Ten? Well deserved. Deserved. LSU said it doesn't look like it's working out with Robinson. Yeah, may have got a bag thrown at him. You never know. His top edge rusher at San Diego State is transferring, which is interesting because he was he coached edges there. He was also an inside linebacker coach, I believe, at South Dakota State.
Yep, powerhouse.
So he's kind of worked with multiple positions as well. That's good to his pedigree. Is Raiola leaving? We already talked about that. We'll see. We're leaning towards no, but who knows? Andrew Marshall was one of his players. Yes, he was. Yep. I like the strength. Sorry about my dog back there getting a stretch on.
I don't know what that comment says.
I like strength with a front tooth sniff. Krager, I don't know what you're talking about. He will come to Nebraska, and then he follows it up with this, and he will come to Nebraska because we were D-line U. To be honest, if you were in his shoes, would you come to Nebraska or go to LSU? Well, if I was in his shoes, I'd come to Nebraska because I'm Nebraska.
I mean, if you want to pay me $1.3 million, why not?
Yeah, and an opportunity. I mean, honestly, if you go to a team and you turn around, like you come off a year like Nebraska had a down defensive line, and you turn that around, like your options open up. Like if he does that, he probably won't be here long because he's probably going to get hired as a defensive coordinator somewhere.
Yeah, that's good for us. That means we were damn good.
That means he did good. With Raiola, Butler, and Braden now gone, I hope we'll see less focus on Butler's desire for NFL skill sets and more on developing the talent we have. I think it's good to have a combination of both, honestly.
Robinson also coached for Rhule at Temple and Baylor, so that's also why he would maybe consider us.
100%. Yeah, they've worked together, and so like he can paint a clear picture of what he wants, and also we talked about this before, where Rhule likes to keep as much of the cohesion and verbiage the same, and so that would really kind of fit right along, which is why he'd be willing to throw a bag at a guy that he's worked with. He's very much about his connections, as we know.
Yeah, Jeb Wade came by the way of Glenn Thomas. They worked together back in 2005.
Tap the screen twice to like this content. Yes, appreciate y'all. If y'all want to drop a like, it really, really helps us out. So thank y'all. Will Nebraska have a new D-line coach? A new D-line or new D-line coach? Hopefully both. No. We got a good defensive line to develop, but we got to bring some guys in. I believe I read somewhere PFF has Wade rated as the 6th best O-line coach in the country. I'd believe it. Getting tired of being let down and starting to think the university should be renamed Rebuilding University. So old, I remember Frank Snolich play football, fullback. That's because they don't feel much. Does Nebraska get Elijah Robinson? We talked about that a little bit. O-line, D-line moves are reassuring me that Rhule's ready to prioritize the line of scrimmage. Yes, he is. He has no choice. Yes. That was a disaster this year. How much of Georgia Tech's offense was QB run? I think he had like 900 yards rushing.
Yeah, they had their quarterback, Hayes King, had about 900 yards rushing. Their 2 running backs had 1,000 yards combined.
Yep.
So 50 between the running backs and the QB.
What does the crown mean? Good question. In the comments?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not 100% sure. I think you get
we're on a difference. We're not on YouTube right now, actually.
Yeah,
we have no idea what the crowns are.
We don't see the crowns on our end. Crazy thought. Dylan is staying and Dayton recommits. I don't think it's that crazy.
Left that as an option.
Yeah, I don't think that's that crazy. I think he's back. Nobody will match his money. I feel like this is a staff that has addressed all the issues that can get those 2 to 3 extra wins and compete with the top teams. If we get Elijah Robinson, man, I'll feel really good about this.
Let's beat Iowa and Minnesota.
Yeah.
Like Coach Rhule says, like we're chasing Ohio State. Yeah. Like we're chasing Ohio State, yes, but we're getting spanked by Iowa and Minnesota. Let's beat them and then we'll chase Ohio State.
Yep. Dylan, in my opinion, is staying. Very few schools are going to play $3 million or more for what he's accomplished. Teams are willing to throw a lot of money at a big name quarterback.
Carson Beck got $5 million.
Yeah, bro.
Or what, 6?
Teams will throw a bag at a top quarterback. And a top quarterback, I say like top name quarterback, top talent, because they feel like they can bring him in and turn him into great. Like it's not, they're not looking at the box scores and the stats. They're looking at kind of what he was talent-wise and what they feel like they can turn him into, and they're throwing that type of money at. That's the type of money you got to throw at players. You know, it's not necessarily in production. It's like upside. You got it. Sometimes to compete with some of these schools, you got to pay them on upside. That's the hard part about landing guys in the portal and stuff like that. Is like a lot of the times you're banking on their upside. Donnie was the last remaining Frost hire. Yes, very true. If he's gone this year, he will. The next, always look for the next best thing. It's okay for him to go. I'm not sure what we're talking about here. Probably Raiola. Is Dylan worth $3.6 million? When you look at how much quarterbacks are getting paid,
you're worth what someone's willing to pay.
Yep. Show me the money. He'll never get 4. I certainly hope Nebraska give him a raise. Again, I think people are underestimating how much schools are willing to pay. Nebraska needed some killers on the staff. Eckler was the first now. Jeep, Arich, and Robinson are all killers. Man, if we land Elijah Robinson, I'm going to feel so good about this, though.
Yeah.
Ahmad Hudson, Husker hype. For those that are not aware yet, Trey Taylor and Tay Ellis started a channel. Sorry, guys, my wife's home, so if you hear my dogs barking, that's why.
On that, Tay and possibly Trey will also both be coming back on the show sometime in the future. So to kind of talk about 2027 recruiting class and their podcast, so that we can all kind of get a view of what their podcast is and what this 2027 class is going to look like.
Yeah, Tay Ellis must follow on Twitter as well.
Oh yes.
Love our new DC and O-line coach. Hire Elijah Robinson to bring in the surprise offensive coach. Ed Orgeron for D-line coach. New coaches, but if we don't have the players, did you see Ed Orgeron's quote?
Yeah, from Buzzing with the Boys
at the SEC. He's like, we used to have to sneak in the back door with the bag, and now we have to walk in the front door or something like that.
Yeah.
We all knew that they were band players. I believe Bo Pelini was in his 30s when Nebraska hires the DC in 2003. Imagine if Nebraska could actually land Ahmad Hudson out of Louisiana. Oh, it'd be great.
It's going to be hard flying Kiffin down there.
Oh, comment catch-ups. Did Robinson coach Elijah Judy?
Technically,
no?
Yes. He recruited Elijah along with that class that Elijah Judy. Elijah was part of that.
What year was that class? Oh, he was. That is right. 2020. Yeah, he was 2022.
Yeah, so they had I think they had 6 5- and 4-star defensive linemen on that class.
Yeah,
and so Elijah was just the one that got left behind.
Sorry, Matt. Go big,
B.
red. There we go. that better?
That's isn't that poor man's Coach Rhule? Isn't that what we called him or something like
that's
that?
poor man's Coach Rhule. That's Mr. That's our backup Matt Rhule. In case we ever lose the other one, we got backup Matt Rhule here. Sneezed Nebraska sneezed ahead a little over LSU for Robinson. Sneezed? Oh, sneaked. I was like, what does that even mean? Lover knew we're seeing that one. Let's see. Why don't teams get a say in where they want to play in which bowl games? Not everything has changed in college football. Well, if they have the choice to opt out now, looking at you, Notre Dame, at least after 12 champion contenders starting with number 13, because it's about the brands making money. Like they get it. The people that are, the people who pay the money for the bowls are the ones that get to make those decisions.
Speaking of, did you see
sponsor money?
The agreement today that came out with Notre Dame?
Negative.
Okay. Well, if no one else has seen it, I got to get your thoughts on
Watching from the ICU. Never mind. What the hell?
They
I hope
been guaranteed.
If you're in the ICU, what happened, brother? I hope you're okay.
I hope you're okay.
Yeah. What are you talking about? How you going to walk over that? All right, go ahead.
They've been guaranteed a college football playoff spot if they are ranked 12th or higher.
That's crazy.
That was the news that broke today.
That's crazy.
That is
instead of joining the conference, they're just doing that.
Yeah,
That's wild.
I would refuse to play them. Give them the worst schedule. Let them play freaking Army.
Ridiculous. Join a conference, you bums.
Yeah, absolutely insane.
Stand them. Any clue on what Rhule was referring to today's presser when he's working on one more sizable addition, the offensive side of the ball?
Coach Teasley. So if you missed the first part of the show, Nebraska, it's not officially announced, but Nebraska is hiring South Carolina's former offensive line coach, Coach Teasley. I just drew blank on his first name. Let me pull it up again. Lonnie Teasley. He's going to be a Jamar Mosey of the defense.
Have you seen the schedule next year? Yes. What's crazier than who we play is that the beginning are all home games and then all away games. Well, we got to figure it out quick. Did Nebraska not give Matt Rhule the money to get the best staff when he was first hired? He just didn't mess.
He had the biggest assistant salary pool in program
he
history.
Just didn't make the right decisions. All right, just like his first quarterback also was a terrible decision. Second time Frost has opted out of a bowl game. Yep, true. Love the program, fellas. Keep up the good work. Appreciate it, Ralph. Thank you so much for tuning in. Wade is a good name for Nebraska, Coach. That it is. Trey and Tay's channel is called Beyond the Hashes. Beyond the Hashes. So y'all go check that out.
Love the random emojis he puts.
I know. Robinson is not coming here. No Jimmy or Joe's. This is Nebraska's model. New coach, 3 years. Promises. Things don't work out. Rearrange the deck. Chairs on the Titanic. That's
we'll still watch.
That's one way to put it. I think the phrase is switching seats on the Titanic. It's like switching seats on the Titanic because either way you're going down. I like what Coach is doing. If Dylan leaves, he didn't want to be a Husker. Let's see. Okay, I can't read that on the stream. I want to get monetized. Justin and Brian, thoughts on Phillip Rivers coming out of retirement? They got to play the Texans in Week 18. So Phillip Rivers,
he's a practice squad guy.
Can you imagine Phillip Rivers if he has to start Week 18?
Oh man, that'd be a disaster.
Mike's going to be a little preview of the room. I think we're going to be in be good in the running back room. Been saying it since everyone doubted EJ in the beginning of the season. That's the guy to listen to right there. His son's in the running back room himself. So, It was Applewhite. Major Applewhite. Frost got him. Not a Frost fan, but he only had 5 wins. Barthel's that guy. He's not going anywhere. He loves it, Nebraska. Well, Rashawn says Barthel's not going anywhere, though. Loves it, Nebraska.
Perfect. So then it has to be Satterfield.
Gotta be. Get him out. Get him out.
Yeah. I don't know.
Appreciate you dropping that reassurance, Rashawn, because it would be fantastic to keep Barthel.
Yeah,
that would be.
I love Coach Barthel.
I know, man. All right. Well, that was a really good show, man. Off season brings a lot of talk and a lot of conversation. So appreciate everybody for tuning in, man. We had a packed show today, a lot of comments. So thank you for everybody for tuning in, dropping your comments. Brian, do you got anything else you want to touch on before we head out?
No, I think we're good. I guess the 3 videos I posted this weekend went berserk. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. That was pretty awesome to wake up on a Monday and see like 15,000 views on the 3 videos. So it might have been more than that actually. So thank you everybody for watching those. That was really appreciated.
I've been sick as a dog. I was going to join him on the defensive coordinator one, but I got a stomach bug. So I was even that.
We didn't want him throwing up.
So, yeah. It's been rough. Call-in show Friday. Yes, there will be a call-in show Friday. So we'll see how then. Great show, boys. Appreciate it. Why do I get you guys confused with Big Red Rant? That's a good question. I don't know. We don't have Big Red in our name. So Frost got a bunch of players that were Mr. Football of their state, including Emmett Johnson and Malcolm Hartzog. All right, we're still talking about Frost, guys. Nicotine patch. Also that. Nicotine patch. I don't know what that means. But, oh, okay. Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. Again, if y'all haven't dropped a like on the video, drop a like. And then, yeah, we will see you on Friday for the call-in show. The call-in show is at
7 p.m. Central
time zones, bro. 7 p.m. Central. Yeah, I'm in Arizona. We don't do daylight savings, so I get confused on time zones still. 7 p.m. Central. So y'all tune in, drop your comments, and we'll drop the link so y'all can call in and we can discuss these coaching hires more in detail, and hopefully we'll have Elijah Robinson by then. So appreciate everybody again. Thank you for tuning in. And with that being said, we'll see you on the next video. Peace.